The Cat in the Hat ride at Universal Studios Orlando used to be a pretty good, pretty charming ride that served as a very good anchor to the Dr. Seuss / Seuss Landing section of Islands of Adventure. However, over the years, the ride has gotten significantly worse and has slowly but surely become arguably the worst ride in all of Universal Studios. Now, in order to figure out exactly how we got here, we need to go back to the very beginning when this ride opened with Islands of Adventure back in 1999. Because although the ride was well liked and well received back then, it still had issues even back when it first opened. Right off the bat, you might notice that the ride does not even attempt to hide the behind the scenes effects, as you can literally see the top of the ceiling with the lights hanging down from it. As much as I don't care for most of Disney's dark rides, I have to say, that's something that even Disney would not be seen doing. At least not in that obvious of a fashion. Another issue the ride's had since day one has been the audio, right? In some scenes you can hear the characters perfectly fine, well and crisp, but then in other scenes for some reason you just can't hear them at all. They're like either muffled by the music or they're too far away to hear them and you have no idea what they're saying.
What are you saying? What are you saying?
Another issue comes with the actual design of the ride. Too much of the elements and animatronics and sets are within reach of the guests on the cart. And many times you will have guests trying to reach out and touch stuff, which either is going to mess things up and potentially break them, or is going to cause somebody to have to go over the loudspeaker and say, hey, keep your hands and feet inside the vehicle at all times. And guess what? Even if it isn't somebody on your cart doing that and it's somebody else on the ride at the same time as you, guess what? It's gonna pull you out of the experience. It's gonna kind of ruin the ride for you. And that's something that's been an issue ever since day one because of the way they made the ride. Now, despite all this, the ride was still received very well, and the reason why is because it had so many other elements that allowed people to overlook those issues and still enjoy the ride. For one, the spinning was amazing, right? Incredible spinning. Think about the spinning at the end of Men in Black. It basically had a ton of moments like that, which added a ton of energy to the ride and just actually made it much more entertaining than your typical Omni-Mover attraction. On top of that, with the story and art style staying very close to the actual book, it added a lot of charm to it, and for people who read the book as a kid, which obviously a lot of people have, it definitely brings back a bit of nostalgia that Universal in itself doesn't necessarily typically have, at least nowhere near to the extent that Disney and its rides do. Also, the original score for this ride is outstanding. It's spectacular. I listen to it on its own all the time. I love it so much. It's incredible. It's so good that when you're on the Universal shuttle buses, they play like maybe 3 or 4 songs from the parks. The soundtrack from this ride is one of them. That's how good it is. And then, to add the cherry on top, you have the ending, which on its face seems pretty simple.
Then our mother came in and said to us, "Did you have any fun? Tell me, what did you do? Should we tell her about it? Now what should we do?" Well, what would you do if your mother asked you?
But in actuality, ends up being a unbelievably great ending for a theme park ride, because even though the question is kind of asked as a joke, kind of a nod to the original book, it actually ends up being a somewhat thought-provoking question as you actually kind of think while you're waiting to get off of your ride vehicle and there's nothing really to look at. You're kind of sat there thinking like, what would I actually do in that situation? And to actually have a ride have you think of something as you get off of it, that's actually pretty impressive. So I have to say, that ending is pretty outstanding. So now you're probably thinking to yourself, well, yeah, I can definitely see that. There definitely was a lot to like about this ride, certainly more than was to dislike about it when it first opened. But here's the issue. Universal has not taken very good care of this ride. No, sir. Nope. And over the years, it has gotten significantly, progressively worse. The first place you might notice it is in the animatronics. The animatronics do not move very well. They don't look very good. And they never really did from the beginning, but they certainly looked better then than they do now. I mean, the latex on these things is just sagging off badly. It looks really bad. And Universal has really made next to no attempt to really fully repair and refurbish these animatronics, and it just gets worse and worse every single time you ride it. And I mean, dude, just look at this animatronic right here. It doesn't get any more blatant than that. The second thing you'll notice that's pretty hard to miss is the fact that the ride does not spin anywhere near as much as it used to, or as intensely as it used to. Reason for this, at least the rumor is, that the ride manufacturer went out of business, so Universal has struggled to get parts to repair the ride, so essentially they've had to run it in B mode as to keep the ride's integrity intact and not absolutely destroy it. But the loss of spinning brings about a multitude of problems for the ride. For one, like I mentioned earlier, the spinning brings movement to the ride, as many of the animatronic aspects aren't really moving that intensely, so the spinning brings a lot of energy to the attraction that it doesn't have otherwise. Also, since the ride was built with spinning in mind, the pacing is completely thrown off when you take the spinning away. And there are several scenes where you're just like, what the hell is going on? Why is nothing happening? This is ridiculous. And you're just sitting there with nothing going on until something finally happens. You're like, it seems like there was supposed to be something in between there. And yeah, you were supposed to be spinning. That's why it seems off. Another thing that's hurt with no spinning is the effects. There's this one optical illusion in the ride that's supposed to kind of make a 3D effect with the cat in the hat kind of coming towards you as you slowly get towards it, but it only really works when you're disoriented by the spinning as you're moving towards it. But without the spinning there, and you're just going straight at it, one, you're not disoriented, and two, you're given plenty of time to just look at it, so the optical illusion doesn't even work. Really, those two things are the two biggest glaring issues with the ride today. However, there is also one other thing, and that's this scene right here, which has a very outdated animation that just does not look very good. But yeah, I mean, I think most people are still willing to look over that. But with these new added issues, there's something that people cannot look over anymore, and that's the issues the ride had when it first opened. Those issues are now becoming more and more obvious because the rest of the ride is not good enough to allow us to ignore those issues that have been there since day one anymore. So now you have a ride that has old issues that have now become more obvious, new issues that really hinder the ride badly, and it all culminates into a ride that is extremely bad. However, I will say this. If you took the ride as it is today and stacked it up against every other ride in Universal, would I say it's the worst one? Would I say, oh, that's the ride I would least likely ride? Probably not. Honestly, I probably wouldn't say that. However, there is an external factor that I haven't talked about yet, and that is disappointment. A thing that you will never experience on a Universal ride except for maybe your first time riding Fast and Furious. God, that ride sucks.
Roman Pierce, FBI, don't move. Neil, that's right, party's over.
You know how long I took to iron this shirt, man? I'm not.
You're under arrest right now.
But what I mean by disappointment here is that every time you ride this ride, you expect it to be at least as good as the last time you rode it. And the fact of the matter is that every time you ride this thing, there's going to be something that's worse. Whether it's the animatronics deteriorating more, the spinning becoming less intense and less frequent, or hell, even old issues that you haven't noticed up to this point becoming more and more obvious. The fact of the matter is that if you've ridden Cat in the Hat before you ride it a second time after some time has passed, you're going to be disappointed because it's not going to be as good as it was the last time you rode it. And that's just something that just shouldn't exist at a Universal park, right? I mean, I think Universal knows they kind of messed with Fast and Furious. They know that that's an issue. They were planning to fix it up before COVID, but that's obviously delayed things. Cat in the Hat, there have been no rumors, no thoughts to improve this ride whatsoever. The ride is 20 years old, right? I mean, that is the target mark for getting rid of a ride at Universal. That is the death sentence time period for getting rid of a ride. But here's the thing. Here's why Cat in the Hat will never go. It is the e-ticket. It is the anchor attraction of Seuss Landing. They need that ride there. They're never going to get rid of it. Our best bet is a major refurbishment / overhaul, and they keep it the same ride, but they really go in and fix it up. Or maybe, if we're really lucky, they just completely gut the whole thing and just make a completely new Cat in the Hat attraction. Now, there has been rumors of making a Grinch ride here, as Grinch is probably the only other major Dr. Seuss character on the same level as Cat in the Hat. I mean, we've seen how popular he is when he's out and about in the parks. People will wait hours to go and meet with this guy. They love him. But these rumors of a Mount Crumpet attraction, there's supposed to be a roller coaster about it, and a Grinch ride going along with that, you know, these have been around for a long time and they've never come to fruition. Would they seriously get rid of Cat in the Hat and have him be more of a background character instead? I don't think so. I mean, you gotta remember the gift shop for this ride is all Cat in the Hat. You talk about other gift shops for some other rides, there are other properties in there. Cat in the Hat is the only Dr. Seuss property period that is in this gift shop. That just proves how popular Cat in the Hat is. So I don't see them re-theming this to anything else. It's gotta stay Cat in the Hat. And like I said, we just gotta hope and pray that Universal finally puts their targets on this ride and says, hey, we should probably fix this ride or maybe improve it or refurbish it, something, because oh my god, it has really fallen off. And it is just so sad to see. And it really honestly hurts the whole land of Seuss Landing in general. I actually like riding the Seuss Trolley Train ride more than this, even though that ride's kind of boring and honestly doesn't do much of anything either. But hey, at least the Seuss Trolley Train ride gives you great views of the park. This ride does nothing. It just disappoints you, makes you sad. It makes you think of how it used to actually be way better, and now it sits and it's just a disgusting mess that you are disappointed with and sad about riding every time you go on it. And for somebody who loves Universal as much as I am, I'm almost embarrassed when people ride this ride. When I bring new people to Universal, to this park, I'm so excited to show them every ride. When they ride this ride, I'm embarrassed. I'm absolutely embarrassed to show this off to them, because this is an actual sad ride. I mean, because I love Cat in the Hat. I love everything about him. I love the movie more than honestly anybody else should. I have it a 10 out of 10. It's one of my top 10 movies of all time. But this ride sucks, and Universal needs to do something to change that. So Universal, the ball's in your court. Make a change. Make the world a better place. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of Cat in the Hat, and if you think it should stick around, if it needs a refurbishment, what you guys think about it. Should it be replaced by Grinch? I don't know. You let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.